There is a place in the heart of the Western Desert, forgotten by the modern world, an oasis full of forms and colors. Where its people live the same simple lives as their ancestors did, hundreds of years ago. They remain faithful to the old traditions and shun all what modernity has to offer. Lying southwest of the Qattara Depression, 306 kilometers from Marsa Matruh, 800 kilometers west of the Nile Valley, and 120 kilometers east of the Libyan border, and 17 meters below sea level, this is where you find Siwa. Siwa today is still one of the most inaccessible and fascinating of all the Egyptian oases. After the visit of King Fuad in 1928, there was a plan to build a road connecting Siwa to Marsa Matruh. However, the project was abandoned 125 kilometers into the desert. Today, several caravan routes connect Siwa to the outside world, and 3 other routes connecting it to Jarboub, Bahriya, and the Nile Valley. Many have written about Siwan history, from the ancient Greeks like Herodotus of Halicarnassus and Callisthenes back in 450 BC. To modern writers like Ahmed Fakhri, who wrote the most famous book about Siwa Oasis, as well as Liana Sovaltsis, the Greek archaeologist, who spent years looking for the tomb of Alexander the Great in Siwa, and even a Siwan called Fathi Muallim, the first Siwan to have ever published a book. There is a document called the Siwan manuscript that can be considered as the most accurate record we can find about Siwan history. This manuscript is kept by the Musallam family, and no one but the Siwans is allowed to access to its pages. This can be interpreted as a way to protect Siwans' inheritance from outsiders. However, the writer Ahmed Fakhri has been the only exception when completing his book Siwa Oasis during the 70s. Until today, he is the only non-Siwan to have read the manuscript. This fact and the lack of interest until now by the outside world makes this place even more mysterious and remote. Siwa Oasis has little in common with the other Western oases. Its inhabitants, the Siwans, descend from the northwestern African Berbers from as early as 10,000 BC. Siwa remains today closer to this roots. The language, Siwi Amaziran, is derived from the northwestern African dialects, and it has no connection whatsoever with the Arabic language they speak in the northeast part of Africa. Their folkloric dance remains pure and unique influence from the west side, as well as the clothing, costumes and traditions so far from the Arab ones. Even the decorations and tools are different from the other Egyptian oases. Siwa became part of Egypt in the 19th century. Until then it came through almost 2,000 years of isolation. And in 1820, Muhammad Ali took Siwa back within the Egyptian border. Only in 1986 it was part of Marsa Matruh Governorate. However, the Siwans are still run by sheikhs and have a little participation with the Marsa Matruh Governorate.
قبيلة أولاد موسى إحدى قبائل 3 اللي هم موجودين غرب سيوة، وتعتبر أكبر قبائل موجودة في الغرب.
Siwa Oasis consists of 11 tribes divided into 4 areas, 4 in east, 3 in the west, a tribe in a village called Al-Saghir, and 2 other in Bahiyya Din and Oghormi. These tribes are so connected together with historical solidarity, and they solve all their problems in a peaceful manner. Awlad Musa tribe is one of the tribes in the west of Siwa Oasis and is considered the largest. Coming to the point of choosing a tribe sheikh or leader, 1,200 to 1,500 would vote for the best man with the best reputation. If the tribe failed to choose a sheikh, the voting would take place at the police station. Sometimes the leadership is inherited to children, if the sheikh was really loved by the people of the tribe. The main mission of Sheikh al-Qabila is to solve all the conflicts between the members of the tribe. In the past, most of the conflicts rose from the scarcity of water, since the number of wells were insufficient. At that time, people used to have scheduled timings to use the water. The types of conflicts between people tends to change, even the verdicts have changed throughout the years. It used to be by whipping, but now it's changed to be a fine to be paid depending on the losses the act has caused. After the sheikh is assigned, he has to choose a number of old wise men to assist him in his leadership mission. This council, which consists 10 to 20 men, is called Majlis al-Uqala, or the Wise Men Council.
It is a fact that there is almost nothing connecting Siwa with Pharaonic Egypt. There are no traces of the Old, Middle or New Kingdom. The first remains that can be found in Siwa belong to the 26th dynasty. But the real founders of the Siwan splendor were the Greeks, as they made the oracle of Ammon to be considered one of the most sacred places during their establishment in Cairo, what is known today as Libya. And at least one of the greatest stories told of the oasis concerns the visit by Alexander the Great to the oracle and the temple of Aghurmi. Every ecosystem can be found here, desert and nature coexisting within the same barriers. Gifts of nature makes the oasis unique in its variety of landscapes. There is only one thing that unifies them all, that is, the tranquility and harmony in a pure state. Deserts like an ocean, sand dunes like waves, bordering the timeless monuments and the everlasting springs. The colors of Siwa disappear gradually once you get deeper into the sands. Archaeologists and geologists find in the desert the clues which explain its history. The Western Desert in particular was covered by the Mediterranean Sea some 50 million years ago. The entire region went through a folding phase during the Upper Cretaceous period, when the region went from flooded to firmland. Today we find the remains of this particular episode lying in the desert, the fossils of the clams and corals that one day lived among the waters. During the 19th century, some of the mysteries of the Western Desert were uncovered. In December 1873, Ismail Pasha, the Khedive of Egypt, sent the first scientific expedition to the Libyan Desert, discovering the oasis known as the Island of the Blessed in the Great Sand Sea, as they called it. The Sand Sea goes from Siwa to the Gulf Kabir, around 600 kilometers long and 250 kilometers wide. It forms an astonishing natural barrier between Libya and Egypt. In the desert, nothing but the wind lives and nothing but the sand moves. Nature is about balance. To give this balance, and in contrast with the dryness of the desert, there are enormous salt lakes that surrounded Siwa. Their salinity is so high that there is no life in them. There are several lakes at Siwa: El Zaytoun, Maraqi, which occupies the eastern part of the oasis. The salted lakes of Siwa do not contribute to the life in the oasis. However, there are other bodies of sweet water making the fertility of the land possible. These creators of life are the everlasting springs. natural sources of water that come from the ground and bring life to a small part of the desert. A spring means that the water that gushes forth is fresh new water, never touched by the environment, clean in its pure form. Just 21 kilometers into the desert, we find a piece of life. It has a form of a wheel, and it's called Wāḥat. This little oasis is owned by a Bedouin called Abu Bakr. Wāḥat was very first discovered by a petrol company searching for the black gold, and instead found a crystal clear running water. As the spring couldn't be closed, the company left it to Ahmed Abu Bakr, who used it as his home.
المكان اللي احنا فيه دلوقتي اسمه بير واحد، 15 كيلو جنوب سيوة في وسط بحر الرمال.
This place has Wāḥat's well, or Bir Wāḥat, around 15 kilometers south of Siwa in the middle of the Great Sand Sea, lying between Egypt and Libya. Standing here and invite my friends from Nile Valley, or Wadi Nil, to visit this magnificent site in the heart of Egypt's western desert. If one can say, this heaven has warm water running from the heart of the land in depth of 900 meters, and its temperature reaches 39 degrees Celsius throughout the year. In the heart of the desert, you can see sand dunes, mountains, trees, and even flowers.
يعني لو في جنة في الدنيا يبقى هنقول عليها جنة. زي ما انتم شايفين عندنا المية، مية سخنة متدفقة طالعة من بطن الأرض، درجة حرارة 39 على مدار السنة.
The 181 ancient springs that remain in Siwa belong to the Roman and Pharaonic period, and among them perhaps the most famous is the one called Cleopatra's Hammam. The legend says that Cleopatra used to come here to take baths in its waters due to its beauty and purity. Located on the path that leads to the temple of Ammon, the amazing stone pool of 20 meters of diameter is fed by natural spring water. Crystal clear with a turquoise touch, it is unavoidable to imagine Cleopatra bathing here. A few stone steps into the spring makes it accessible to anyone who today wants to take a bath, just like Cleopatra did thousands of years ago, according to the legend. The road that leads to Cleopatra Hammam, it's surrounded by hundreds of palm trees, the backbone of Siwa's economy. If we take the road back, leaving the spring behind, and across the palm trees, we will find the Temple, dedicated to the cult of Ammon, during the reign of King Nectanebo II, 360 to 343 BC. It's located in the valley below the rock where the Temple of the Oracle stands, and it's an integral part of the ritual related to the Oracle, and further down, the amazing Oracle Temple. There is a record written by the Greek historian Herodotus